This is what psychologists describe as social cognition, social intelligence, mind reading, theory of mind, or mentalizing. It's also sometimes described as a form of empathy, cognitive empathy as opposed to emotional empathy, which is most of my focus. Later in this chapter, I'll talk about cognitive empathy rather critically, but right now we should just keep in mind that these two sorts of empathy are distinct. They emerge from different brain processes. They influence us in different ways, and you can have a lot of one and a little of the other. Empathy, in the Adam Smith sense, the emotional empathy sense, can occur automatically, even involuntarily. Smith describes how persons of delicate fibres, who notice a beggar's sores and ulcers, are apt to feel an itching or uneasy sensation in the correspondent part of their own bodies. John Updike writes, "My grandmother would have choking fits at the kitchen table, and my own throat would feel narrow in sympathy." When Nicholas Epley goes to his children's soccer games, he has to leave the row in front of him clear for empathy kicks. And it takes someone sturdier than me to watch someone bash himself on the thumb with a hammer without flinching. But empathy is more than a reflex. It can be nurtured, staunched, developed, and extended through the imagination. It can be focused and directed by acts of will. In a speech before he became president, Barack Obama described how empathy can be a choice. He stressed how important it is to see the world through the eyes of those who are different from us, the child who's hungry, the steel worker who's been laid off, the family who lost the entire life they built together when the storm came to town. When you think like this, when you choose to broaden your ambit of concern and empathize with the plight of others, whether they are close friends or distant strangers, it becomes harder not to act, harder not to help. I like this quote because it provides a nice illustration of how empathy can be a force for good. Empathy makes us care more about other people, more likely to try to improve their lives. A few years ago, Steven Pinker began a discussion of empathy with a list. Here is a sample of titles and subtitles that have appeared in just the past 2 years. The Age of Empathy, Why Empathy Matters, The Social Neuroscience of Empathy, The Science of Empathy, The Empathy Gap, Why Empathy is Essential and Endangered, Empathy in the Global World, and How Companies Prosper When They Create Widespread Empathy. Other examples include Teaching Empathy, Teaching Children Empathy, and The Roots of Empathy, Changing the World Child by Child, whose author, according to an endorsement by the pediatrician T. Berry Brazelton, strives to bring about no less than world peace and protection for our planet's future, starting with schools and classrooms everywhere, one child, one parent, one teacher at a time. As I started to write this book, I kept my eyes out for similar examples. Right now, there are over 1,500 books on Amazon.com with empathy in their title or subtitle. Looking at the top 20, there are books for parents and teachers, self-help guides, marketing books, how to use empathy to create products people love, and even a couple of good scientific books. There are many web pages, blogs, and YouTube channels devoted to championing empathy, including a website that lists everything Barack Obama has said about empathy, including his famous quote, "The biggest deficit that we have in our society and in the world right now is an empathy deficit." After I published an article that explored some of the ideas in this book, I was invited to join a series of empathy circles, online conversations in which individuals talk about the importance of empathy and work self-consciously to be empathic toward each other. Books on empathy fill my shelves and my iPad, and I've been to several conferences with empathy in their names. I became sensitive to the way empathy is discussed in response to certain public events. In the fall of 2014, there was a series of incidents in which unarmed black men died at the hands of the police, and many people expressed their anguish about the lack of empathy that Americans, and particularly police officers, have with racial minorities. But I would read as well angry responses complaining about the lack of empathy that